Hello people of the internet, we are back here with another week of Broadway grosses, so let's get into it. Up first we have & Juliet, and that went from 92% to 91%, and 997K to 1,107,122, so a pretty decent week for & Juliet, and a huge increase of about 109,000, so again, it's doing phenomenal, but it's always done phenomenal, so nothing really is going to change with that. A Beautiful Noise went from 62% to 71%, and 793K to 920K, and that's a pretty big increase, and I think that A Beautiful Noise isn't going to be here for years and years and years, but if you know the musicals School of Rock and Waitress, they basically ran for 3 years, very respectable runs, and while they weren't making $1 million every single week, they had very solid business, and I definitely see A Beautiful Noise and Juliet as that next Waitress and School of Rock, respectively. Will it be here in like 3 years from now? Probably not. I mean, its capacity kind of wanes here and there, but you know what? If it makes enough money during Thanksgiving and the holidays and over the summer and in the fall, which seems to be when people go and see it more, I think it will definitely be able to have a nice, healthy run. And I actually went and saw Here Lies Love again, and there were these two ladies, and before seeing their playbill, I was like, they saw Here Lies, they saw A Beautiful Noise, and they saw A Beautiful Noise because I saw the playbill. So, I know my marketing. Kind of, not really. Back to the Future had one of its better weeks in a while, going from 88% to 89%, and $1 million last week to 1,299,452 this week. Gutenberg, the musical, had its best week yet, going from 87% to 93%, and 874K to $1 million this week, which is incredible for that musical, and you know, it doesn't even need to make $1 million to be profitable, but yet it is, so very happy for that show. Hadestown went from 589K to 681K, and 91% last week to 96% this week, and again, better, but still not great. I do think Hadestown is on the verge of closing. We'll see what Jordan Fisher does for the box office, but I think if he cannot bring in significant numbers, it's going to close. Hamilton went from 99% to 100%, and 1,768,000 last week to this week's 1,941,374 this week. So, pretty solid week for Hamilton. Harmony, and that opened this past Tuesday, I believe, or no, Monday, I don't know. It opened this week, and it got pretty not so nice reviews. But box office wise, it's doing better. I don't know why I said it like that. So Harmony went from 81% to 91%, and 481K last week to this week's 643K, which is a $162,000 increase. And I actually was saying that it wasn't doing so great at the box office. You know, it was starting off with 4s and 5s, and you really didn't like where this was going. But the fact that it had this much of an increase is a very good sign for Harmony, and one that could mean it could hang on. I do think it will last until the Tonys. It will probably close, like, immediately after, because I don't think it's going to win anything major. But I think if it can do solid 7s and 8s, you know, in Thanksgiving and Christmas, I think it can survive January and February. And then once we get into the springtime, it'll be Tony season, and that will kind of keep it going. But again, I definitely think that this won't be here this time next year. I am very confident in that. Again, the box office started off with 4s and 5s, and any musical that starts off like that is not great. I mean, obviously there are Tony contenders that you give some slack for, but even then, like, if they're not doing good, like, no show that starts with a 4 or 5 in front of it is great. I mean, maybe for the first week, you know, you're building up buzz, but once you get into the second and third week, you need to see progression. You need to see 5s and 6s and 7s. So it's in a good spot now, but I'm not so sure if it's going to stay that way the entire time. Here Lies Love, and that's unfortunately closing, went from 79% to 88%, and 768K to 730K. So the capacity did go up, but the gross did go down. Very sad that it is closing. I went and saw it again this week on the dance floor this time, and it was so fun, and it was so good. And every 5 minutes, I was like, why is this musical closing? This is a shame. It's absolutely amazing. It's not just, you're not seeing a musical, you're in an experience. You're in an experience, and it's amazing. I also met one of you guys, one of my amazing subscribers. If you're watching this video, please tell me your name so I can remember it, so I can, like, say, hey, shout out to you. If you're watching, and if any of you guys see me at any musicals, feel free to come up to me and talk to me. I'm a chill guy. I'm not scary. So, yeah. Kimberly Akimbo went from 82% to 93% and 564K to 657K, which is a pretty nice increase. But again, it has not been doing phenomenal at the box office. And I'm surprised that they haven't announced the closing yet, because while it is doing better, it's mainly done 5s and 4s consistently. And it's lost so much money doing previews and everything that I just don't know how it's still running. Happy it's running. I don't want it to close. Stay open, Kimberly Akimbo. But I'm like, how is this happening? Merrily We Roll Along went from 100% last week to 100% this week, and 1,811,423 last week to this week's 1,865,831. Banger blockbuster of a musical. Moulin Rouge went from 1,230,913 to this week's 1,269,624, and 97% to 99%. So that's doing phenomenal. And again, Moulin Rouge is definitely having some stunt casting, which makes you think, is their box office not looking great without the stunt casting? But regardless, it would take a couple of years for this to close and do really bad. Shocked is also closing, and that went from 78% to 84%, and 643K last week to this week's 753K, which again, solid numbers. You know, and if this wasn't closing, I would be like, okay, it's doing 6s and 7s, but realistically, for something like Shocked, that is a mid-sized show, these are decent numbers, but you really want to see more consistent higher 7s and 8s for it to really sustain momentum and stay on Broadway. 6 went from 92% to 96%, and 841K to 999K, so one of its best weeks in a long time. Some Like It Hot went from 65% to 74%, and 723K to 881K, and again, that show is closing, but it's ending on a high note, it seems. Spamalot went from 89% to 90% for 7 performances, and 657K to 753K, which is extremely healthy. The average ticket is $71, so it is quite low, but the capacity is very solid, and 753K is really good. I mean, for a lot of new musicals that open, they don't doing this well. You know, this is what you'd expect pre-pandemic levels. And it's going in the right momentum. You know, you're starting off with 6s and 7s. I know Sweaty Oracle is preying on the downfall of this show, and it's not selling well, but I think it sells very last minute, so I think that, hey, I hope this does well. I want it to do well, you know, because its prospects aren't looking that great. You know, box office-wise, its advances don't look that great. So the fact that it's making solid, decent money, very happy about. And it's right on track. Sweeney went from 1,489,486 to 1,770,126, and 87% to 98%, and that's because Josh Groban was back. And that's the Ghosted for this week. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Overall, a pretty good week for most musicals. Again, I'm very shocked that that Kimberly Akimbo and Hadestown have not announced their closing yet. I know some people are controversial on Sweaty Oracle, but he did say that a musical is going to close soon, and I got my money on one of those 2 musicals. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.